Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 weeks to go. Gameweek 15 is done. Whew, that was a tough one. Boys. Goodness. It was like Gameweek 11, but a little better. Just a little better. The average Gameweek points was 35. That's how bad we were. So if you do not get 35, we are many. The highest in our group got 42, so at least you know there's no interview there. And also, yeah, that wasn't great. The highest of the week got 105. So the big question is, what went wrong in Gameweek 15? Well, the truth is, we have been exposed. We have become predictable. Majority of our teams rise and fall with the performances of Salah and Haaland, and to a lesser extent, Son. Basically, we all made gambles on players we thought would perform, and they didn't deliver. Now, because we are mostly all thinking the same way, we all mostly underperformed. In our group, the lowest had 19 and the highest had 49. And the funniest thing about that, those two players are right next to each other on the table. The lowest was Melvin Katharima with 19, and the highest was the Ganagadero who sleeps through storms. He got 49. Well done to him. This game week raises a question. And the question is, how does one stand out? How does one be different from the crowd? I took a look at the team that got the highest points this week. The highest points this week was 105. He had all of his players playing. He got 105 points. And his team was built with mid-table players. His captain was Raul Jimenez. In his midfield, he had Iwobi and Andreas, who had 14 and 15. Then he had Mitoma, Bowen, and Cunha in his team. At the back, he had... Hold on, there's something odd happening here. He has 4 Fulham players. I didn't know you could have 4 players from one team. Is that a thing now? Is this an error? How did this happen? Anyway, he had Robinson, Everton defender Tarkowski, Kilman, and Alexander-Arnold. And then Edison as his keeper. Okay, so that's a wild team. I looked at his league performance and he would be dead last in our league. I can't speak to his circumstances, but if he was in our group table, this would have been somebody interesting to interview just to hear his thoughts. The other week I had an interview with Mike Wow, manager of 043 Boys. His main thing was that we need to start looking at differentials. If you want to catch up with the people at the top, you need to sort of move in the same speed, but also move a little bit different. He was also of the opinion that if you gain 50 points every week, you should be fine. And if you gain 50 points this week, you would have definitely made up ground on the leaders of the table. Let's just go over the top performers of the week. In goal, you have Sanchez from Chelsea. They lost, but he saved a penalty, so he has 11 points. Aston Villa, who absolutely demolished Man City. In fact, my brother was telling me it's like Man City were playing Man City. It was like the Real Madrid performance that Man City displayed the other day. This is how they were beaten. That's how dominant Aston Villa were in that game. For his performance, although Man City only had 2 shots on goal and 2 shots on target, Martinez finished with 9 points. Neto from Bournemouth finished with 8. Pickford. Wow, Everton, unlikely victory. Won 3-0. Pickford had a clean sheet, 7. And Wolves keeper, Bentley, with 3.9, also had 7. When it comes to defenders, Senesi from Bournemouth got 14. Virgil van Dijk got 14. Alexander-Arnold got 12. Romero and Totti got 9. Konsa, Young, Doughty, Dawson got 8. When it comes to the midfield, Andreas was a top performer with 15. He's usually one of Andres Pereira, just in case you don't know who he is. Pereira had 15, McNeil had 14, and McNeil has been performing over the last 2 to 3 game weeks. He's 5.4. Iwobi had 14, McTominay had 14, Cross had 12, a guy called Hinshelwood had 10, the Korean guy had 10, Rice had 9, Bailey 9, Doucouré 9, Soboslai 9, Palmer 8, Kearney 8, Ward-Prowse 8, Havertz, Martinelli, Bowen 7. When it came to forwards, Raul Jimenez has 13. It's good to see him back amongst the goals. He's 5.2. Gabriel Jesus had 12. Moore from Bournemouth had 7. Adebayo from Luton had 6. Cunha had 5. And Cunha has been low-key performing over the last 4 weeks. The reason I read those names out is to show you that there were so many players who performed this weekend. And those are the names of people who could be potential differentials for you. The thing about differentials is that you don't know that they will perform. And I'm here to propose an alternative way to build. The alternative is this: a hybrid of consistency versus disruptors, if that's a word we could use. A lot of these players were under 5.5, majority of them. Mbeumo is injured. There's potential for somebody here to take those minutes, like a Dwight McNeil right now. Or maybe that Korean guy, because he's been a differential that has been in our faces for at least 8 of the last 15 game weeks. We need to accept that even if people have names that we may not like, or we may not be used to, that they have potential to perform, potential to deliver, potential to make differences in your teams. So while you have your Haaland and your Salahs, make space for a few of these other alternatives that are possibly there. In this Premier League season, it seems like gambling on expensive defense isn't the way to go. Like you've seen, Man City haven't kept a clean sheet. Okay, well, let me rephrase that. Man City have kept a clean sheet only 2 times in the last 14 games in all competitions. There were 6 clean sheets this weekend. One was by Newcastle, another by Aston Villa, Liverpool, Fulham, Bournemouth, and Wolves. Everton seem to be a team that have found form. Excluding the Man U match, they have been very solid at the back. Pickford may be worth a look. Tarkowski, Mikolenko may be worth a look. Bournemouth have improved in recent times. Senesi and other players may be worth gambling on, just as the other defender that you may want to bring on. Newcastle have lost their keeper. Liverpool have lost their keeper. There is no reason for us to be gambling with Areola anymore. You have the Kelleher guy. You have Dubravka from Newcastle. You have Bentley from Wolves, who has got in 2 starts, I think, 12 points. The Aston Villa defense is quite interesting of late. You have Luka Dean get off Matty Cash. Matty Cash did not even play this weekend. And you have Konsa and Torres, who has been looking like he's threatening to return. As I look at our midfield for the top 10, we all have a combination of Salah, Son, Palmer, Saka, and Mbeumo. For those of us who have Mbeumo, this is an opportunity to try and find somebody who could be a differential. At this point, if you could afford it, Bowen could be a differential. That Korean guy could be a differential. If you want to gamble on a Chelsea midfielder, that could be a differential. Doucouré, who I cry about every week, is a differential. Gross is a differential. Mitoma is a differential. Probably Rice at this point is a differential. Kulilevsky, Bailey, if you're a bit of a gambler, McTominay, Willian, Pereira, Douglas Luiz. I'm not sure if I've said him yet, but Douglas Luiz, since he's on penalties. Of course, Dwight McNeil, who I had spoken about earlier. I know our logic is to jump onto people who perform in big games. So like, for example, when Doku had the big game, people jumped onto Doku. When Enzo Fernandez had the big game, people jumped onto him. I'm saying use that same logic, but for players in smaller teams. So jump on Dwight McNeil, jump on Doucouré. Try to become fixture agnostic and believe in players. Having said that also, don't be like me. I bought Palmer, and I don't know if you've looked at the Instagram page yet, but just go look at the Instagram page. I've had Palmer for maybe 5 or 6 weeks. In that spell, he has returned, I think, nearly 32 points. I have only gotten 5 of those points. So the lesson is, if you do get the player and your intention was to play him, play him. Don't just get the differential. Play the differential. On that note, Palmer is a differential if you play him. The forward line is where you can get the most interesting returns. If you are a Haaland guy, I'm sure you're pairing him with maybe Watkins or Darwin. I've seen some with Nicholas Jackson. To be honest, it might be time to look at Cunha. It may be time to be looking at Solanke. It may be time to look at Isak. He's not quite a differential, but people don't have him. João Pedro has been having good form of late. Crystal Palace's Edouard has been looking good of late. Amdouni, maybe you jump on Raul right now. Maybe Mr. Raul Jimenez has picked up on form. I say this because when you look at the fixtures and the results, there were maybe only 2 really surprising results in this game week. One of them being Everton 3, Newcastle 0, and the other one being Man City 0, Aston Villa 1. To a lesser extent, West Ham beating Spurs, but West Ham are a good team. It was a game that Spurs could lose, and Spurs have lost, I think, 4 or 5 games now in a row, so they can be beaten. We expected Wolves to beat Burnley. We expected Arsenal to beat Luton. Brighton beat Brentford, and that wasn't unexpected. Bournemouth beating Crystal Palace may be a bit of a surprise, but if you look at the most recent results, Crystal Palace have been struggling without Eze. Bournemouth have been on great form of late. Fulham beating Nottingham Forest may have been surprising in terms of the results, but Nottingham Forest have been struggling of late. They haven't beaten anybody, I think, in 3 or 4 games. And Fulham have been very competitive of late. If you most recently remember the 4-3 game they had against Liverpool. Liverpool beat Sheffield. Totally expected. Man United, Chelsea, that was a winnable game. And it was also a losable game. That one, if Man U won, you're like, okay, that's good. But also if Chelsea won, you'd have been like, yeah, I can see why they won. Basically, this game week shouldn't have been as bad as it was. But it was. The reason is that even within results we expected, we picked the wrong people. There will be many more of these type of weeks coming up ahead. Just experiment a little bit more, guys. Also, something random. For those of you who have not used your wild card, we have 2 per season. The first one will expire by December 30. So if you haven't used it, this might be the time to start using it. Remember, once you use it, it's gone. You're not going to have 2 once December 30th reaches. So as these games come fast and quick, be careful, or rather, be alert, and use it wisely. For those of you who have already used it, don't worry, the second one is coming. But also, don't rush to use it, because we're going to be having double game weeks at some point, and that's when you should be using it. So, let's look at our game week table. At the end of game week 15, Simnanijua, goodness gracious me, led by Leon, is number 1. He has 936 points. Number 2 is Vic City, who got 37 points. He has 927. So it's just about 9 points behind number 1. Number 3 is Why Are You Running? Mr. Leon Mortier. He has 914 points. So he's about 13 points behind number 2. Number 4 is Alexander Mutune. Don't bottle it this year. He has 33 points. And he has 910. So he is 4 points behind number 3. Number 5 is Highbury Memories by Adan. He has 877. And so he's quite behind, like 50 points behind number 4. That gap is widening. At the bottom of the table, there was a bit of a differential. The last, Mr. Washira Gitahi, got 38. Melvin got 19. And so now number 22 has made the gap 20 points. And now number 21 has been overtaken by Thagana Gatheru. Thagana Gatheru has 49 points. He's our week's top point tally earner. And those 49 points have raised him to number 20, so he's third from bottom. He has 714 points, which is 1 more than Melvin, who's at number 21. And at number 19, we have Jeremiah Obiri, who has 718 points. So Thagana is just 4 points behind him. And at number 18, Tim Kubwa got 34 points, and he has really leapfrogged them. And now he's at 721 points. And so now his job is now to look for number 17, who has 764 points. So there's a 40-point gap at the bottom between the bottom and the mid-bottom pack. Just like there is between Adan and Mr. Tune. There are gaps forming. So 19 was the lowest point in our group and 49 was the highest. Our average group was just 30-something points. We were just about average, or just below average. There are 23 weeks left to go, so there's plenty of time to make a turnaround. So, don't lose heart, guys. Looking at the coming week, we have Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. That's going to be interesting. I believe Liverpool will be favourites for this game. Trent has been performing well of late, and if you can afford him, he may be somebody worth bringing into your team. Darwin Núñez had an assist, so he wasn't totally useless as he has been previously. Virgil van Dijk and Szoboszlai scored in this recent game. Of course, I could never advise you against Salah, and that's where these problems come. But I wouldn't start saying bring in Szoboszlai. But in the previous episodes, I said he's a sneaky differential, and he's proving that this is true. I am banking on a clean sheet in this game, and I have 2 defenders from Liverpool. Crystal Palace are struggling. They need both of their wing dynamic players. I don't know how long Eze is going to be out for, but I don't think Olise can carry it by himself. Brighton are playing Burnley. Even when Brighton are playing Burnley, I'm not convinced they'll keep a clean sheet, but if there was ever a time for Brighton to keep a clean sheet, this would be it. This would be the one. I expect them to win. Gross, Mitoba, Ferguson, Adingra, Bonanote. They have so many threats in this team. And now we have been told, or rather, Hinshelwood has announced himself. Burnley won 5-0 recently. So maybe they will channel that. They lost only 1-0 to the Wolves. But also, if you saw that goal, you'd see that Burnley have not learnt anything. They're the best championship side in the Premier League. But that's about it. They were individually and collectively responsible for that goal. It was just a mistake. Brighton, press. Brighton will force these guys to make so many errors. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Brighton won by more than 2 goals. Man U versus Bournemouth. These 2 teams are quietly in really good form. Bournemouth's form is more, you see it and you believe it. Man U's form is more like, oh, shit. Look at the results. I've got 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 2-1, 3-0. Oh, okay. I guess they're in good form. Because when you watch them, it's not very convincing. But be that as it may, they have reached there. And these 2 teams are on form. For Bournemouth, I would recommend Solanke, Tavernier, Semenyo, Senesi, Christie, our old boy Billing. For Man U, if you want to be sneaky, you just go with McTominay. Fernandes missed a penalty, and I always find that harsh. I don't know why they don't give credit to the keeper. His penalty was saved. He did not miss the penalty. The penalty was saved. He misses it if he went out of the posts, but he kicked it on target and it was saved. With Man U, Onana has kept the most clean sheets. If Man U in this game, it'll be a close one. It'll be like 1-0. But if they don't win this game, it'll be high scoring. Sheffield versus Brentford. I was really looking forward to this game because I was like, these are easy points for my boy Mbomo. But Mbomo is injured. I still think they have enough to win. This means now that since Mbomo is out, there's going to be a new penalty taker. I don't know who that is yet. It'll probably be Wissa, if I was a betting man. So I'll just say Wissa, Janelt are the usual suspects. Oh, also, Sheffield United lost their manager. Heckingbottom was fired. And they brought in the old boy, Mr. Marauding fullbacks himself. Sorry, marauding centre-backs. Mr. Wilder. Picking up from where he was. So I think they're expecting to go down and come back up with him. I really liked his Sheffield. I was very sad when they went down. Let's see if he can bring anything out of them. I wonder how much of his old boys are still there. Sheffield are a new team, or rather an old team with a new manager. There may be a new manager bounce, but against Liverpool, maybe it showed in that it was 2-0 instead of 5-0. It may be more competitive in this fixture. So for Brentford, usual suspects. For Sheffield, let's see how he prefers to play before we know who are the best players to choose from them, should we want to choose anything from them. Wolves versus Forest. Wolves have been doing relatively well, considering they lost Neto. Nottingham Forest haven't been good since Awoniyi went down. In the last 3 games, their form has been poor. but they're still a team that poses threats. Gibbs-White, Elanga, Odoi, Wood, Aina, Toffolo, Aurier, they have threats from the midfield and the wings. And the wings, really. Wing-backs and wings seem to be where they have their most danger. They were recently hammered, so they'll be wanting to change that. Their manager is now becoming under pressure. They have a very flaky chairman, and he will be looking for improvements. And so Nottingham Forest will definitely try to be better. Wolves are the same team. They are doing well. They kept 2 clean sheets now. They have a good goalkeeper in Mr. Bentley. He seems to have come in with some good form. Maybe that will continue. Cunha is the man right now in that team, along with that Korean guy. Those 2 players are the first 2 choices you should choose. They are differentials, not only because they're the obvious players, but because they're performing. Aston Villa versus Arsenal. Aston Villa haven't lost at home now for 14 games. And if you watch the Man City Aston Villa game, then I don't need to tell you that Man City was the second best team. In fact, if you put a team in between them, they would have been the third best team. Arsenal are not Man City. You can't discount Aston Villa's home form at this point, but also they're playing the leaders of the league. It's really hard to choose a player here. I would just say, go with the people that you've been having, unless one of those people is Matty Cash. If you have Matty Cash, get rid of him. I did have Zinchenko. That was very frustrating for me because I didn't want him to play, especially since he didn't start. Now, they only have 5 defenders now. So you're guaranteed that White will play, Gabriel will play, Saliba will play, and now it's just between Zinchenko and Kiwior. For Aston Villa, if you believe they will cause trouble, you know it's going to be Bailey, Diaby, Watkins, Luka Dean, and Douglas Luiz in case there are penalties. Everton versus Chelsea. It seems like Everton can beat anybody. And this is a kind of game now where if they beat Chelsea 3-0, I wouldn't be surprised. Chelsea is just that team right now. They can be beaten by absolutely anybody, even Burnley. But on the flip side, this is a kind of game where Chelsea can hammer Everton 5-0. There's just really no in-between in this fixture. I don't know how to call this game. Yeah, that's it. I don't know how to call this game. So I would say, if you have these assets, stick to them. Fulham versus West Ham. Now, I'm one of those people who believe in recent form. And Fulham, in the last 2 to 3 games, have shown that they are now capable of scoring goals. They have scored 9 goals in the last 2 games against good quality opposition. Well, at least Liverpool was good quality opposition. They will be able to threaten West Ham. Areola cannot keep a clean sheet, so expect them to be scored. Now, the real thing is, will it be Pereira? Will it be Raul Jimenez? Will it be Iwobi? Have they stumbled onto something? Is it going to be Robinson from the wing position? Fulham are an interesting team because there's nothing stable about them. They're like a better Chelsea. Or rather, a Chelsea with a thinner squad. So there will be goals in this game from Fulham. Just knowing where it will come from is a tricky part. On the West Ham side, there's no doubt about where the goals are coming from. Kudus, Jared Bowen, who was just picked up again, and you have James Ward-Prowse. Those should be the first 3 players you're looking at in this game. Luton versus Man City. Man City haven't kept a clean sheet in some time now, and so I expect Luton to threaten them because somehow Man City are pregnable. With Man City, I believe this will be the kind of game where they come back with fire. Hell, scorching fire. So I believe like now, Doku will be unleashed and he will run those guys into the ground. I believe Haaland will score. I believe that they will want to make a statement. Pep does not want to lose games, so I don't think he would rotate the squad in a way that would make them appear to be weak. I think he will do it the other way around. I even think he'll make this team stronger than the one he will field in Europe coming in the next game week. Yes, it's a Champions League week, so that will be something to keep in mind. So for Man City, just keep your assets. Whatever you have is still the right thing to be doing. For Luton, you know they score goals. You just don't know from where. So if you've been gambling with Luton, continue and take the players that you've been taking. On the last game, you have Spurs versus Newcastle. Spurs played well, but lost to West Ham. They were profligate in front of goal. They should have scored more. How many times have you said that about Spurs this season? This is a big game, so I'm hoping for my boy Son to score. And if he doesn't, I think I will be getting off him. I didn't expect him to score against West Ham. It's crazy. But Newcastle, oh my goodness, Trippier was a disaster. Individually, he himself, personally, as Trippier, was responsible for 2 of the goals that they conceded against Everton. Like, they were Trippier's fault, not the collective unit. There was no, like, brilliance. He messed up. He was having his senior moments, like Thiago Silva the other day. Bad. If you haven't seen the highlights, just go watch them. They were disgusting. Having said that, he will be in my team. I haven't lost faith. Moments are not to be punished for a lifetime. He's a good player. He's fallible, like we all are. And let this be a lesson to you guys also in your lives. It's okay to mess up here and then. It doesn't define who you are. Just do better. Newcastle, the assets are clear. I have Gordon. I have Trippier. If you have Isak, continue with him. If you have the Almirons, continue with them. For Spurs, I would recommend Kulevski, Son. Romero seems to be back and he's come back with a goal, so he's somebody worth monitoring. Pedro Porro is always dangerous. It should be an entertaining game. Both teams coming from a loss will be looking to win. They want to keep up with the Arsenals of the table, and so they will be putting on a good fight. Will Spurs lose their 6th one? No, that's what we'll wait and see. There's a strong chance for Newcastle to do something here. They're in better form. Even though they will be having one eye on Europe as they're looking to qualify through the skin of their teeth. And with that, let's hope for a game week of recovery, just like game week 12 was a few weeks ago. I hope you're all keeping up well with your teams and the fixtures that are coming quick and fast. See you on the pitch. Bye-bye.